Sounds good.
Welcome, Realm family, to another episode of Wrestling with the Realm podcast. I'm Brian, one half of the power and glory of wrestling podcast, and on the other side, he is the Hercules to my Paul Roma. He's my guy, Will. Will, what are we talking about?
Guys, as you can see behind us, we have an injury to talk about, or it's some say it's storyline, some say it's a real injury. I believe what everyone's saying, this is a real injury.
Yeah.
Liv Morgan pops her shoulder out of place. We're talking maybe just a couple weeks out. Some are saying 16 weeks out of action. It's probably somewhere in between. She's gonna probably miss the Women's Evolution pay-per-view, which kind of sucks. All this sucks. She was a part of such a great storyline, and you feel bad for any wrestler that's going through injury. I feel like we've had, one too many of those in recent weeks, so kind of sucks to see.
Yeah, when the whole thing happened, I told Will, I was like, we got to jump on and talk about it a little bit just because I feel like it's kind of a big deal, not just because it's Liv, but because it's somebody who's been involved in so many different storylines that we've talked about. Like that's one of the things that we constantly say about Liv is she's kind of involved in all the different aspects that go on Raw. She'll be out there 4 or 5 times being involved in the show. You know who she is, Will? She's a modern day Bobby Heenan at a pay-per-view from the late
Yeah,
80s or
for
early
real.
90s. She's
Yeah,
just all over the place. And having
yeah,
her get injured, I know some people were talking a work at the beginning that was not a work. I think everybody kind of is in agreement on that now. But then there has been the differing time frames that some people are reporting, yeah, it was going to be, could be 3 months, could be 6 months, who knows? I'm sure Dave Meltzer has the exact timeline or not. He probably
probably not. Probably we'll take the
he
letter.
probably he probably doesn't, but
That dude does have.
um but I think 3 months kind of seems to be the consensus of what's going to be going on with Liv being out if she needs surgery or not. It sucks that that's just a freak accident, and that's kind of the next thing that I wanted to talk about with it is right away you had people somehow putting this on Kyrie Sane because
Oh.
she was involved in the match with Zoe Stark when she got hurt, and I'm like, is that just Will? You gotta smarten me up. Is that just the IWC just trying to get people upset by saying that kind of stuff? Because there's no way anybody could actually think that Kyrie had anything to do with Zoe Starks or this. This was just it. This was a freak accident. These things
It
happen.
yeah, it's anything for a reaction, not just the IWC, just the internet in general. You do anything to get a few clicks, and I know we are not like that,
Yeah, we try not to be.
but they definitely anyone on the internet is. So if you're able to throw something outlandish out there that's going to get you a couple hundred likes, people will just do it for the hell of it. And you know, that's what they're doing with Kyrie Zane. She obviously did nothing wrong here.
Hmm.
And it's just wrestling. It happens all the time. If she was actually a part of the move here, if you have any sort of like, oh, yeah, it was her that injured Zoe Stark, that's just foolish.
Yeah.
Foolish. She just landed really awkwardly, Zoe Stark did, and now she's out for a very long time. This is another one of those freak accidents. As you know, there's wrestlers that you put them in the ring with people, and sometimes, unfortunately, like they're just in there when this stuff happens, and then they build up a bad reputation for themselves. Hopefully, that doesn't happen to Kyrie because I don't know. I love Kyrie Zane, so
Yeah, Kyrie's awesome, and it makes me feel bad for her that people even went there because now she had to respond to it on social media and put a
Yeah.
post up, and it's like, come on, guys, like that's just a freak accident. Um, I think the bigger problem is story wise. And right when this happened, like the next day, there was somebody on Instagram, I think, and they had a post on there, that Liv Morgan's hurt. She's going to be out a gazillion, bajillion days, according to Dave. And somebody had a comment, and I was like, it was the best comment because it's exactly what I thought. And all this person's comment said was, oh man, the women's division is going to be boring again now. And I went, that's it right there. Like that's the first thing that I thought is somebody's going to have to step up to try to fill that void because it's you don't realize how much she was putting into the shows and into the stories until she was gone filming Spider-Man for her big cameo, according to Dave Meltzer. I'm never gonna let him forget that one because
No.
that dude just like jumped on right away and then started talking smack about Liv Morgan for like no good reason. Maybe The Rock doesn't like her, so when those guys are hanging out, they were talking about it. Who knows? Um, but you realize when she's not there, a big piece that's missing. So on one end, I go, even if she's going to be out 3 months, she's not going to be off of TV for 3 months. There'll be things that she'll be able to do, even if she's not cleared to be wrestling. I'm sure they can get her involved somehow on television. I hope. It seems like that's what you would do because you can continue
Yeah.
storylines that they currently have, no problem. And like my wife said, that's the biggest part, anyways, is just her being there and not necessarily in ring stuff. It's everything else that she does. So just her being there hopefully won't be too much of a loss. Uh, but where do you think we go from here, Will? Because it seemed like we've been setting up one direction, but where do you think we go now?
Well, I think it's exciting. Like you said, there is a void to fill. And I think it gives a great opportunity to Roxanne Perez to fill that void. And she was already in the Judgment Day, seemingly, and now she can really be in the Judgment Day. It it prolongs a Judgment Day breakup until Liv comes back, which one way or another, Liv gets kicked out the Judgment Day, Dom and Liv get kicked out the Judgment Day, or Roxanne and Dom join together and Finn gets kicked out. Who knows? It
Right.
prolongs a Judgment Day breakup regardless, which feels like we've been building to that forever. We already had one version of the Judgment Day breakup, but they still stuck together. And I feel like we were heading towards the end of Judgment Day, probably at SummerSlam. But man, now we're talking another 3 months, and then you still need to build the storyline. I think Roxanne's gonna fill the void though. She will probably take majority of the stuff that Liv was doing, even potentially being a tag team champion. Remember last time
Yep.
someone got hurt, Jade Cargill. They just were like, "Hey, there's no match. We're just gonna give someone the belt," and they gave it to Naomi. So I feel like we're going to get something very similar here where Liv is probably just going to have to vacate the belt because my guess would be that they want to keep it involved in storylines. And you're probably going to see Roxanne and Raquel potentially become champions, which, builds an interesting relationship there between those two. Probably will put a few more wrinkles in the Judgment Day
Hmm.
because the story that they were building was that Liv didn't like Roxanne, but also agreed with her on some points. You go back to where, she said to Raquel, "Hey, you're the veteran out there. You should know," and was agreeing with Roxanne. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. I mean, your guess is as good as mine, and I comment down below what you guys think on this because there's a million different ways you can go with it. And, that's the part about injuries. They suck, but it gives an opportunity for people to step up. And, it keeps wrestling interesting. I mean, you try to look at the positive in this situation, which there's not a whole lot, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was curious about. If you thought that they would go down the give Roxanne Liv spot with Raquel, because we just did that with Bianca, Naomi, and Jade Cargill. And my first thought was, no, you don't want to do that because we already did that. Maybe you can find something more interesting, but I think, and this is kudos to my wife who dropped this, what she thinks could happen, bomb that I wasn't ready to accept because this whole time with the Judgment Day, it feels like this whole time we've been going down to a conclusion where Finn is trying to get rid of Liv, Dom, and Raquel. That they seem to be the ones who are going to be on the outs. At the very least, he wants Dom and Liv out, and he's willing to use Roxanne is that little chaos agent that we talked about a few podcasts ago. My mind has never allowed me to even contemplate Dom turning on Liv and Raquel turning on Liv and Liv being the only person kicked out of the Judgment Day. But my wife brought this idea up, and I go, wow, this is kind of, it makes a lot of sense. It's almost too much like right. And this whole thing started after Liv's injury. My wife and I were talking about this, and we were talking about how Rhea Ripley went on to social media and, broke kayfabe to go on there and tell people, you shouldn't be celebrating somebody's injury. We got to be better than that. And there were some pictures with some of those posts pre Liv coming back and stealing Dom when Rhea Ripley turned on Liv, and then eventually Liv comes back, she steals Dom, she gets the title, her revenge tour. It's great. My wife didn't know about the first part of that story that originally Rhea Ripley is the one who turned on Liv when she was joining the Judgment Day all those many moons ago. So once you see that piece of the puzzle, one, it puts Liv's whole issue into a different perspective because now we can really start to ask why what made Liv the villain with Rhea Ripley with what she did. From Liv's point of view, Rhea's the one who turned on her to begin with. So interesting when you really break it down that way. It's good storytelling. But fast forward to today, if we keep Liv around and you have Roxanne taking her place as a tag team champion with Raquel, they hinted at this a little bit this past Monday before Liv went out there and got hurt after Raquel had her Queen of the Ring qualifying match, and she's in the back and she's got the ice pack on her neck and everything, and Liv wants to go talk about strategy for her match with Kyrie later, and Raquel kind of stands her up and just says, "Oh, I'm not medically cleared to do anything. I don't know what you want me to do." And she kind of leaves Liv hanging a little bit, which is a weird little crack that you're seeing between those two. And then Finn even adds to it even more with Raquel and is telling her, don't worry about Liv. You're not medically cleared. She shouldn't be mad at you. And you kind of see Raquel thinking about it a little bit. Like, A, is Finn trying to play me or is she buying into what he's saying? So now if you put Roxanne with Raquel and they start defending these tag team championships, at a certain point, somebody's going to start making the argument that she's a better fit with Raquel than Liv is. And you start driving a wedge more between Liv and Raquel. And the ultimate dirty thing would be is if we get to a point where they all turn on Liv, including Dom, and kick her out of the Judgment Day. I said that makes sense for a couple of reasons. One, you and I have talked about this, that Liv and Dom are walking that line of being a face, whether creative wants them to be or not, because people are cheering for them.
Yep.
Uh, so it almost feels like you can have one of them, but not both. And if you have Dom turn on Liv and screw her over, now you're going to start booing him again. The cheers will dry up and people will be squarely booing him as a heel, which is great because I've always said you got to save that face turn for Dom. It has to involve Rey Mysterio. So you
Yeah,
keep that in your back pocket by having him turn on Liv. But now, once that happens, now we can get Liv and Rhea Ripley back together because now they both have common enemies, the Judgment Day and Dom. Dom screwing the both of them over is probably going to be the thing that brings them back together. And I think that makes the story much more interesting if we go in that direction. Again, I'm probably late to this party. It's just, it's been hard for me to think that Dom and Liv are not a package deal, but it makes a lot of sense. And I think a silver lining to this injury could be that maybe they can zig and zag with the story in a way they weren't thinking about before. And if they were thinking about just eliminating Liv from the Judgment Day, this might actually help because now we get Roxanne being involved in a different way as a tag team champion and stepping in for Liv. All of that's really good stuff. I hope she has a speedy recovery and she can get back to action as soon as possible. Um, but I'm hoping that we'll get her back on TV throughout the course of that, and that will help the story. Because I said it a few podcasts ago, this Judgment Day story is still the best story that they have going. John Cena's getting more interesting because we have Ron Killings, but I still think this Judgment Day stuff is the best, and I hope that the story doesn't suffer because of this, but I don't think it will. I think the people involved are just that good that it's not going to get boring.
yeah, and even like you said, the good thing is for a minute there, post Mania, this was around like, the time that we had that awful main event, and even the stuff Jay winning, people weren't in love with that. The Charlotte and Tiffany thing was not great. This was the only thing they had for a minute
Yeah.
there. And even the stuff in the men's division was still Judgment Day. That was good. Dom winning the IC title,
Yep.
and you know, luckily now we're in a place where the main event scene on the men's side is heating up, and they're trying to put Tiffany in a compelling storyline. So even if this storyline takes a little bit of a hit over the next few months, it won't be as bad for the company. So
Yeah.
once again, trying to find that silver lining. I like the points you made. I think this storyline can take so many different twists and turns, and I'm interested. I would like to hear what you guys have to think, really. I
Yeah.
know we don't get too many comments, but if there was one that we got some comments on, this would be the one because I don't know where it's gonna go. I liked what you and Danny were thinking,
Hmm.
but there's just so many different things you could get from this storyline. So excited for the future, but sucks for the injury.
Yeah. And credit to Liv again. She's been taking a beating for several months now that we've gone back. I mean, going back to Elimination Chamber, where you go, man, she's taking bumps and she just keeps on rolling.
Yeah.
It's just one more thing for her that, she troopered through it. And I feel like the picture over my, wait, wait, oh, which way? I can't do it. Right
Yeah, you got
there, right
that.
there. So that picture right there, when she's leaving the ring and she's walking and she's kind of pouting, even when she's going to the back with the injury, she was still selling and still keeping it together, um, which is what I love that about Liv. She understands exactly what she's doing, and she's a pro out there. MVP.
Yep. Pro's pro. Brian, you got anything else on this one?
I don't. I think this is we just I felt like we needed to get on. We needed to talk about it because
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of stuff online where people are talking, and hopefully this is some of the conversations you guys have had. So hopefully you guys liked listening in, and
Yeah, I mean, too much negative discourse on this situation, especially from Kyrie's
Yeah.
part of it. And hopefully we were able to hop on here and bring you a little bit of silver lining or
Yep.
positive vibes from the situation. So, and we have an overrated, underrated coming out
Hmm.
after this. Stay tuned for that. The list, more stuff coming on the TikTok. Realm Paranormal. Brian, tell us, but don't tell us.
So, if you guys have been listening, we did an investigation at an undisclosed location that we can't talk about yet. Um, Hopefully there will come a day when we can, but we will be talking about it on the podcast coming up this season. We want to get it in before fall, go over some of the evidence that we caught that night. It was super interesting. We'll be able to talk about it and present evidence to you guys. We'll just have to make sure that we don't give away the location while we're doing that. But we will be able to get as much as we can. Uh, we had some weird stuff go on that night with some of our equipment. And literally, just before I jumped on here, my brother sent me a few audio clips uh, from a couple of the rooms that we were investigating in, and we got a couple of EVP hits already. So it's a lot of weird stuff at this place. So if you guys want to get caught up on what we do on the paranormal side, go over to the Realm Paranormal Podcast. Link is down below and take a listen. You guys will get to see what we're all about, but we got good stuff coming up.
Until next time, guys, I'm Will. That's my guy, Brian. We love you guys. See ya.
Peace out. And I hope she has a speedy recovery and she can. I'm going to do that clean.
Yeah, and until next time, guys, I'm Will. That's my guy, Brian. Sorry, we're getting used to the sorry, bang bang, no cactus jack. Sorry, we're getting used to the Mirror Street.